Oh, hello there. Didn't see you there. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Fitness Friday. My name is Dr. Cutting. I'm the newest member here at Mackey Physiotherapy, and today I'm going to be taking you through some core stability exercises based off of the research by Professor Stuart McGill. He's a PhD out of the University of Waterloo. He's basically dedicated his life to researching spinal biomechanics, and is one of the most reputable names in back health. So you'll have to excuse my beard and the hat. You really don't want to see what's under there right now. Quarantine has kind of taken its toll on myself and just about everybody. I'm sure everybody's going a little stir crazy at this point in isolation, but the most important thing is just to maintain a positive attitude and to keep moving. So nowadays, COVID-19 is actually not the only pandemic we need to be concerned with. Low back pain is actually the leading cause of disability worldwide these days. And since 1990, if you are to become disabled because of low back pain, the actual number of years living with low back pain has increased by 50% since 1990. So, a bit of a different pandemic, but in the sense of a from the healthcare perspective, it is something that is on the mind of all chiropractors and physiotherapists these days. So, the exercises we're going to be going through are called the McGill's Big Three. They include the curl up, a side plank, and bird dog. And we're going to incorporate one more that I love to do as well, and that is the dead bug. Now, these exercises aren't focusing on core strength, they're focusing on stability. So there's a key difference there. Strength, when a lot of people think about building strength in their core, they go back to the classics, the crunch, maybe there's planks mixed in there, which is good, twists, extensions, all that kind of stuff. Basic movement through the spine. With core stability, we're trying to build our capacity to resist movement. So building spinal rigidity and core stability at the same time. This translates into our activities of daily living. Now, I'm not trying to say that everyone should be walking around with neutral spine all the time and core braced and glutes on and all that kind of stuff. It's just not realistic. You need to understand that your spine is a resilient, flexible rod. That's the best way to put it. You can move in all these different, like look, the position I'm in right now, I'm in nowhere near neutral spine right now. Am I in crippling pain? No, not in the least. I feel perfectly fine. If I hung out here for 30 minutes, yeah, I'd probably be not in the greatest spot, but that's the most important thing, is why a lot of people always push, like keep moving, keep changing your position. The best posture is one that's always changing, right? But there are situations where you can put yourself at a more vulnerable position to sustain injury. I'll use, for example, two very common exercises where people can injure themselves. That's the squat and the deadlift. Now, core stability helps support the spinal column when you're going for those lifts. Important thing to note is that before you attempt huge lifts, everybody, especially, I can speak from experience being young and playing sports and lots of testosterone in the change room, everybody wants to have the biggest lift. Everyone wants to lift heavy. It's just kind of rite of passage, I'll say. Only thing is, if you don't build proper core strength along with stability, you can't develop the appropriate capacity to support your spinal column when you're trying to lift heavy loads. So what I mean is when you try and load up your back, say you're pulling from the floor or loading a bar on your back, that's putting all that weight through your spinal column. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like, people lift weights all the time. It's like some of the best things you can do for yourself. Like, exercise is 100% medicine. Like, after all my years of education, that's literally one cold hard fact that's stuck with me, and that is, like, exercise is medicine, and movement and doing the things you love are some of the best things you can do for yourself. getting off track. So back to the capacity and load kind of teeter-totter. You want to have the appropriate amount of capacity to support your spinal column to lift the loads you're trying to lift. So loading up your spine with weight, that weight is going to be translated through the joints in your spine, the discs in your spine, as well as your core. Now, a stable core is going to resist movement. So that's important when you're doing these heavy lifts because you don't want to have movement in your spine, because when you load it up, if there's a weak link in the chain, that's kind of where you could have maybe a buckling event within your spine, and that's when injury occurs, when you didn't have the appropriate capacity for the load you were trying to lift. Okay, so for the curl up, one leg straight out, one leg up, slight extension in the spine. I want you to think of your hands as pressure sensors, not pushing our back into the ground, just keeping it nice, normal lordotic curve. And all we're doing here, we're not doing like a neck crunch, we're keeping our neck nice and neutral, and just imagine your shoulder blades are on a scale. You're just gonna unload the scale. So you're just gonna pop up, take all that weight off the scale, feel that brace in your core, and breathe. And relax. Okay, for a side plank, pretty straightforward. Elbow under the shoulder, legs straight out. Now, you can start with kind of this kickstand, whatever you want to call it, regression. You can basically come from this position, pop up on your side. You want to make sure your shoulders are on top of each other, nice and stacked. Hips are stacked, no rotation. Bracing that core again, controlling your breath. Just hang out here. This is a good place to start. You should feel this on your underside here in your obliques. If that is too easy of a place to start, come on out, hit that full side plank. Same thing, stack the shoulders, stack the hips, and breathe, and feel that brace. If that's even still too easy, you can challenge yourself further. Try and bring this leg up. Hold that. That's challenging. And breathe. Okay, third one, bird dog. Pretty straightforward again. You're gonna drop into a tabletop position. So, arms and knees about hip width apart. Hands are stacked underneath your shoulders, knees under your hips. And you wanna find a neutral spine, so you can basically just kind of play with a bit of a cat camel here. So go into full extension, full flexion. This is also a good one to incorporate in as well, just putting movement through the spine. And then kind of find that middle ground where you feel pretty good, that neutral spine. Now bracing, we're basically just gonna, you can start this by just lifting one arm straight up, not letting any deviation of your core happen, nice and stable there. And you just want to switch to the other side as well. We'll call that stage one. Stage two, you need to start incorporating the legs one at a time. So just kicking straight back and holding, bracing, controlling your breath, and breathing from the stomach. And come back down. Switch the side again. Try not to let those hips rotate. Or if your glute kind of engage here. And come back. Now, the full bird dog has you alternating arm and leg. So if my right hand is going forward, my left leg is extending back, just like so. And hold. Back. And switch. And hold. Good. Okay, for the dead bug, lean on your back. Before we do anything, this time, unlike the curl up, we want to now posteriorly pelvic tilt. So think about shifting your pelvis. Best way to think about it is if you had a tail, you're kind of tucking your tail under. By doing so, you're going to flatten out your back and push it into the floor. So once you can't, slide your hands underneath your low back, brace your core, arms go straight up in the air, knees come up to 90. All we're going to do, alternate arm and leg. Not losing the brace in our core, not extending in the spine, keeping that back pushed into the floor, thinking about pulling our belly button to our spine the whole time. Nice, slow, rhythmic, controlled, and breathe as you go.